How's it going, guys? Mr. Music Fan here. How you guys doing? Here for an album review of the new album Between Here and Lost by metal band Love and Death, Christian metal band, mind you. And this is a band, and this has been an album I have been very, and I mean very passionate about lately. Like, I've been listening to this album non-stop throughout, ever since I got it sometime last year. I think it was around December. I got this album, and like I have I have not stopped listening to this album ever since then. And this doesn't even go for the fact that as I said before, they're also a Christian band, of course, led by KoRn guitarist Brian Head Welch, who departed from the band in 2005, due to largely addiction to methamphetamines and the need to take care of his daughter at the time, who was out without his mother. But then again, that's more detailed, different story. And between that time and his eventual rejoining of KoRn, he put out a solo album and put out a book, and he rebranded his solo project into a band unit called Love and Death. The members, of course, being with Love and Death are, of course, Brian Head Welch, lead singer, guitar player, JR, also on lead guitar, Valentine, I think he's on bass. Yeah, he's on bass, and Dan Johnson, I think is his name, Johnson, yeah, on the drums. And so what you get is simply a continuation of Brian Head's solo album, Save Me From Myself, whereas that album in particular was very emotional. It was a far more emotional album and is far more elongated as far as its sound length is concerned, and also atmospheric too. The album was very full of atmospheric textures, a little bit of synth going on here, but not too much. It was very, really, really heavy. But as far as that goes, where that album kind of lacked a bit of a spark and lacked a bit of an energy, like this album in comparison, like is a jolt of energy. And like, when I mentioned that I have been really passionate about this album lately, I mean that I have been passionate. Like this is an amazing, colossal, fantastic album. And the thing what I love about this album most of all is, like, essentially you can easily retrace the sound of this album back to the roots of KoRn. Obviously, Brian Head Welch was a guitar player of KoRn before he left and became a Christian. But the unique thing about this album, at least to me, is the fact that, like, taking what was so great about KoRn, being that the heavy guitars, the brutal melodies of KoRn's older stuff, especially the first two albums, taking those into account, and yet taking them into a different context and putting a more inspirational backdrop on there, inspired by Brian's newfound Christian faith. And now you have an album that really, in its essential roots, Brian is kind of like returning to the roots of KoRn in a way, but in another way, he also brings a more inspirational message to the songwriting, which is clearly way different from the more brutally disturbing lyrical images that KoRn happened to bring. Again, that's another story for another day. But I think with anyone wanting the raw heaviness of KoRn, but without the vulgar, disturbing imagery, again, your personal preference, then I definitely would recommend checking this album out and checking this band out, especially because like with a name like Brian Head Welch, like, who along with KoRn kind of like rebirthed this new movement in metal, like the new metal movement, like, and really kind of brought forth that seven string guitar attack to the world of heavy metal, who pioneered that sound, who pioneered that genre, especially with KoRn. With a name like that, you kind of get this branding of like, oh, it's just Brian Head Welch with a band. And when you hear the fact that they were a Christian band, you think, oh, they're here to shove religion down my throat and whatever, you know, like, but listening to this album's lyrics, it's really not like that at all. Like, a lot of the lyrics here on this album displays personal struggle, personal loss, personal turmoil. As you know, as human beings, I don't care which religion you are, everyone goes through these things. We all live in this planet, so we all go through these crappy times in our lives and crappy days in the world, as we've seen very well lately. But other than that, like, I mean, none of the lyrics on this album really strike as preachy in any aspect of the sort. Rather, they come out more descriptive. There's a more descriptiveness of, is sort of introspective in a way, but is also kind of like a displaying of the trials and tribulations of day-to-day life, and yet choosing to believe in a God that brings hope and brings purpose and meaning to your lives. And at the same time, you can also take it also very subjectively, like, you know, you could be holding on to hope when everything else around you is not so hopeful. I find it no surprise that the lyrics are still inspired by Brian's addiction to drugs and addictions to meths and all that stuff, like, especially around his time leaving KoRn and then becoming a Christian. Like, I find it no surprising that it comes from that realm lyrically with the songwriting of this album. Like, you know, a lot of the songs like Paralyzed and The Abandoning, Chemicals especially, really kind of display that imagery, that sense of like of where Brian was at around the time that he left KoRn, addicted to all these different drugs and stuff, you know, kind of taking control of his life. And then also the willingness to kind of take back his life not for himself but for something greater than himself, whichever you believe or don't believe. And I think while this is like clearly like this is like, of course, being the Christian band, also not the first guys to do this, nor will they be the last particularly, but it's just, I just can't help it. This is such a good album. It's a really raw, it's very visceral, it's very cathartic, you know, like really much displaying lyrically. It's literally an extension from the solo album into this one with the band now. And the band does a fantastic job in here. They really do a phenomenal job on this album. And as I've said before earlier, I cannot get enough listening to this album. So there's that. So I will go on a track-by-track review of this album from beginning to end. The first one starts up with the first song, The Abandoning, and fantastic beginning to this album. Just absolutely freaking brutal. I especially love it, like in the first part of the song, like Brian is just saying, "Wake up, sleepy, wide awake," and it's like instant energetic jolt to your body. There's no pussyfooting around. There's no beating around the bush or anything. Like, it's just straight up ahead, energy straight in your face. But at the same time, the lyrics hold a very powerful message, as opposed to like the more I am depressed kind of thing, you know. Not that there's anything wrong with that essentially, you know, but there does come a point where those depressing lyrics can kind of get very old. But I digress. So yeah, fantastic opening to this album. I love that song. Whip It. Whip It is a cover of Devo, the original new wave band during the 80s, especially that song in particular. If you listen to the original Whip It, their original version of that song, like it's very silly. It's very not trippy. It's silly. It's very funny, and you know, it's a kind of a really sarcastic take on the subject matter. So you like having to make a metal version, especially with a band like Love and Death, from that silly version to the one that's on this album, like would practically be impossible to do, especially with a song like that. But Brian and the boys take this song, beefing it up, like, you know, like we were like remaking the melodies and the harmonies and all this stuff, you know, and you got an awesome ripping in your face cover. And this song is definitely straight in your face. This song is just brutal, it is attacking, it's powerful, it's energetic, it's fun, and without losing that energetic quality that the original had. But I just simply love it because it's just so awesome the way the band reworked a song like that into this. It's pretty mind-blowing if you ask me. Now, Watching the Bottoms Fall, again, another good song. Sorry about that. Minor disturbance on the other side of the door. Anyway, getting back to this review. Watching the Bottoms Fall. Like that song is just powerful. I love how the riffing is done. I love how the band performs this song. And the deep lyrical subject matter too is very deep and cathartic too. So yeah, there's that. By the way, I love this song. This song is just so beautiful and just fantastic. And this is going into the fact of how the lyrics are. The lyrics refer to death, refers to the death of a loved one. And personally, I even can relate to that, considering I had a friend a couple of years ago committed suicide. And I deeply really related to this song in a sense. And in fact, anyone can relate to this song, considering they have unfortunately having a loved one who passed away and everything. But this song is fantastic because the band plays tight throughout this song. The music, the brutalness, the melodies are strong. The harmonies are powerful, and Brian's singing is he's not the best singer when it comes to technical perfection or musical virtuosity, but he completely makes that up for passion and rigor. And this song especially is no different in that sense, that Brian puts a lot of passion into this song, and we certainly, especially myself, can take that passion into heart with a song like this. And so I love this song. It's just simply beautiful and fantastic too. Meltdown, another fantastic song here. I especially love before the chorus where he say be for never let go, be for fall. It sounds so KoRn. It really has a KoRn vibe to it. Of course no different because Brian is from KoRn, but it's so awesome because of the energy of this song. The energy here is just simply amazing. And Brian's sense of melody and his sense of kind of bringing that KoRn vibe into this thing, it's just simply awesome. This song is powerful, it's energetic, and I love it. I love this song a lot. My Disaster, also another great song on here. Kind of has that downward bendy riff thing that JR does with this song at the beginning. And of course the band plays passionately well throughout this song also too. I Wait For You, featuring Mattie from the band For Today. And everyone has been talking about this song left and right throughout the board. And I would say in the same thing too, that this is I would make the argument that this is personally my favorite song off this whole album. The energy of this song is insane. This is the closest thing you can get to metal, talking about death metal, that you can get with this album in particular. In that song, there's such a great surge of energy between Brian and the band and Mattie, that the chorus is just powerful, straight ripping through your face powerful. And yeah, I can say that there's definitely more Christian bands who are heavier, who are more brutal in their musical attack, but this one here has that melodic catchiness to it that really appeals. And this song is just insane. This song is just awesome. It is just fantastic. And again, my favorite song of this whole record because the energy is powerful. The song is just brutal. It's energetic, and the energy between Mattie and the band is just phenomenal. Fading away, like to follow a song like I Wait for You it's pretty a big tall order to fill, but Fading Away does a really great job. Like, I mean, JR kind of gives this really, again, the KoRn vibe, you know, like every time this song comes up, I can't help but always think that, like, you know, maybe KoRn's Falling Away From Me is going to start right now, but then it evolves into Fading Away, and it's just great. It's awesome. Paralyzed, another fantastic, energetic song on here. Like, I love this song. Again, has that surge of energy that the band produces, with Brian being, you know, his typical passionate self, in a great way. And JR on guitar is just insane. It's just crazy. And Chemicals, the lead single. Originally, this was released on an EP that originally included Brian's name on it, and then went to the Love and Death name. Chemicals is like probably the most radio friendly of the bunch of all the songs of the album, but it's still heavy as heck. And sorry, it's still really heavy, and still has that surge of energy that this band like exuberates throughout this whole entire album. And I especially love the end where it goes like, "I'm not a criminal," and it's like so brutal in your mind that the fact that it's like energetic, it's just brutal and insane. I know I've said those words countless of times throughout this whole review, but it's just brutal. It's just really heavy. And the last song, Bruises, I get the feeling that like throughout this entire tenure of this album, all these songs lyrically I think kind of points ahead to this song, because this song culminates in my favorite song as far as the songwriting is concerned. The lyrics here are just fantastic. They are beautiful. And considering that, you know, that this is like some of the most chillax, the most hushed, and the most quiet of all the other songs, it kind of really ends on a very, I don't want to say depressing or despairing note, but it really ends on a note that's very, doesn't contain all the answers, but it really conveys the question, like in that sense. You know, it's a questioning type of song, but it's not so much in the sense of despairing, but it's also very evocative. And also Brian's vocal delivery, his fragile vocals kind of really gives this song a character. It really gives it like a very emotional fragility character to it, and it's a disquieting, but it's also kind of like a really poignant way to end this album. And like an album that's I've been listening to tons and tons of times since I first got it, and it's just amazing. It's fantastic. So now, 4-point grading system, you guys know what this is by now. Music originality, which basically, in case you don't know, is how much a rating between a 1 and a 5, how much I like the originality of this album. Originality, I would have to give like a 4.5, and that's considering that this is like the considering how this was spawned out of Brian's solo work, and obviously that album being spawned by the work of KoRn. If you're a typical nu metal fan or heavy metal fan and kind of catch this album, then it's probably not going to appeal to you, as you would probably be expecting something more heavier, like along the lines of Slayer, for instance. But considering that, like, you know, taking this album and this band as they are, kind of separate from the whole other heavy metal family in a way, then you really come to appreciate this song simply for its passion and its energy and its honesty and the originality. Even though this may not make the band all that unique in the slew of whole other bands and even way more heavier than them, they still really make up for this kind of fact just by exuberating a lot of passion and energy into their performances. And so that's why I give it a 4.5 for the originality. Songwriting also too a 4.5. Brian is very. This is like, whereas Save Me From Myself kind of like displayed his conversion and displayed, like his feelings of his conversion and all the other times of his addiction. This one is no different, but but in that sense, like Brian's lyric is as heartfelt, they are as passionate, and they are as heart on their sleeve as anyone. And again, he's like, the lyrics, at least I think, are not that preachy. They don't preach religion to you at the slightest, but they, again, like the music, they let out an energy and a passion that I think all of us can relate to in one way or another, if you believe in a deity or you don't believe in one. So lyrics get a 4.5 out of 5. Likeability, straight 5 for Likeability. Actually, considering Likeability is how much I listen to this album, or an album in general, and I've been listening to this album all the time lately. Like, it is that powerful, and like I haven't stopped, actually. Like, it's like, in fact, just before I had to do this review, I was listening to this album just now, and my throat's off today. I don't know why, but this album is just, I haven't stopped listening to it at all. Like, it has been in my iPod for months now, and like even still right now I'm still listening to it, and it is just that powerful to grab your attention in that way. So straight 5 for the Likeability. And as for the album as a package, I would have to give this album a 4.5. Not because it's a bad album. It's definitely not the worst album ever. Like, this album, had, like, maybe you see my Facebook or whatever, but this album for me is like my favorite, personally my favorite album of the last year of 2013. It is just, it's ripping, it's brutal, it's energetic, it's essentially, ironically enough, considering that Brian also released his first album with KoRn, The Paradigm Shift, back also last year. And I think with that album, again, I could make another review for that album, but where some hardcore KoRn fans would love the energy back that Paradigm Shift, at least in their view, doesn't really have, I would say that this album is completely perfect, a perfect return to the old KoRn sound, even though it's not really KoRn. I think this album will really suit old KoRn fans who wants that brutal aggression back again, and I think it's a perfect album for that. Like, at the same time, I think if you're looking for, like an album in a band and a sound to retain that old brutal KoRn style, but without the disturbing lyrical imagery, then this album is absolutely perfect. This album is as brutal, it's as metallic and completely energetic in its sonic depth as KoRn's first 2 albums ever were. But at the same time, the lyrics carry a more inspirational backdrop to them, and it's just, what can I say? It's flaws and all, being that there was a little bit here and there, but enough to be passable and to be bearable. Overall, this is a fantastic album. Like, it's, despite the 4.5 rating, I still love this album. This is an album I listen to a lot, and it's an album I suggest you guys check out for yourself. Like, I mean, you can get off on iTunes, you can get off your store, local CD store like Best Buy or whatever, or you can even stream it online on YouTube, for instance. And also catch the band live. They are an amazing band live. And what else? Anything else I have to say? No, I have to, support this band whichever way you can, like buy their merchandise, buy their albums or anything, and check them out live. I definitely will when they come to my town. But this has been my thoughts. This has been a review for Between Here and Lost. Awesome, really amazing album. I love this album a lot. And kudos to the band and Brian Head Welch for making this album. It's brutal, angry, and metallic, whether you're a Christian or not. Doesn't matter. And yeah, this has been the review. Love and Death, Between Here and Lost. Mr. Music Fan, and I will see you guys next time. Later.